Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to come here today, and thanks to everyone online for dialing in. So in this morning's presentation, I'm hoping to bring you through a whistle-stop tour of the Construction Product Regulations, or CPR for short, what it is, what it does, and finally, some information on future changes coming down the line. So what is the CPR? CPR, it's a regulation. It's a successor to a piece of a directive called the Construction Product Directive. It came into effect in 2011. It came on the books in 2011 and came into effect in July 2013 across all the EU countries. So it's a regulation. It's a legal instrument, and the purpose of it is to break down barriers to trade, facilitate free movement of construction products within the European Union. So how it does that? It puts up obligations and responsibilities on what they determine as economic operators. So these are manufacturers, importers, and distributors of construction products. So how it does it? Through a system of harmonized technical specifications, and the most common of these are the harmonized standards that we would be familiar with. So these range from everything from smoke alarms to structural steel, timber, concrete, concrete blocks, etc. So the harmonized technical specs, they provide a common technical language. So if we look at one of the more common ones, EN 771-3, that's the aggregate concrete blocks standard. It provides a table of essential characteristics that manufacturers have to declare what their product does. So this will include the strength, the compressive strength of the block, the dimensions, etc. So the manufacturer in Ireland that is making that product has to put information on to the end user, just like in every other European state. That therefore empowers designers, specifiers, end users to search across Europe to see what product suits them in their needs best. So there's a system of oversight provided in the system, third-party certification, and these are called notified bodies. So they provide a range of services, independent testing, oversight, and audit of certain products. And we'll be hearing some more about that from one of the notified bodies later this afternoon. So the documentation that underpins this system is Declaration of Performance, or DOP, and the CE mark. So these are documents that are required by the manufacturer to place their product on the market. They're a vital tool for designers and specifiers and regulators in assessing that the products are suitable. These are underpinned in the Irish building regulations and in other specifications, such as the TII specification for roadworks. So they're heavily baked into our regulatory system. Finally, and what's pertinent to a lot of people here today, the term market surveillance. So market surveillance is a system of oversight required by the state to ensure that the products that are made available on the market are compliant with the requirements of CPR. So here we have a graphic of the roles and responsibilities of the different players in the field. So in the top left, we can see the Department of Housing, Planning, Local Government. So, and I'm a representative of the department, so we are the notifying authority. In that, notified bodies, as we can see here, we currently have 10 notified bodies aligned with Ireland. So we have notified these bodies to Europe. In addition, we have INAB, who are an accreditation body who carry out assessments of the notified bodies on behalf of the state. In addition, we have a subset of these, which are referred to as technical assessment bodies. And these are generally for construction products which don't necessarily require CE marking and the full auspices of the CPR, but some manufacturers want to voluntarily adopt the system. So they can do this with the support of a technical assessment body. And finally, we have the market surveillance authorities. And so in Ireland, each of the 31 local authorities are market surveillance authority in their administrative area. And in addition, from 2020, the National Building Control were assigned powers to making them a national competent authority for construction product regulations. So this graphic here indicates what's referred to as the AVCP system, or the Assessment of Verification of Consistency of Performance. I tell you, it rolls off the tongue. So this is the particular detail of oversight across different construction products. So it ranges from no notified body involvement, the manufacturer can self-declare all its characteristics, up to quite onerous levels of oversight with continuous surveillance audits by third party. So depending on the severity of the, I suppose, the risk of failure of a construction product, the product will be pitched at different regulatory requirements. So the risk of a smoke alarm failing or not activating in the case of smoke detection could lead to loss of life. So it's quite high on this list. Concrete blocks are 2+ in Ireland, but then you may have products which have very little risk if something went wrong, and they would be pitched at 4. So there is a range. The detail of what system applies to which product can be found within the specific standard related to the product. So I'd also like to talk to you about a guide that the department has produced in April of last year. So it's titled The Guide to Marketing and Use of Aggregate Concrete Blocks in Ireland. So I suppose as a country, we've had some issues in relation to defective concrete blocks, and it's been well publicized in the media. So in support of I suppose attempting to provide clarity to the market, the department has produced this guide. So it provides and outlines the requirements that are incumbent on manufacturers and distributors stemming from the construction product regulations, presents the relevant standards and national provisions which need to be considered by designers and manufacturers of masonry construction. It should be noted that this guide was produced with the support of the NSCI Masonry Panel, which includes reps from manufacturers, construction professionals, and also the National Building Control and Market Surveillance Office. So while this guide is, I suppose, quite specific to concrete blocks, it can be used as a general basis for people to understand the system of the construction product regulations and the requirements, because the requirements, while in this guide, are specific to concrete blocks. Concrete blocks are just an element within the system. So here we have some of the standards and national provisions that apply in the case of concrete blocks. So we have our national product standards. So the Harmonised standard, ISEN 771-3. We have some national provisions here. So standard recommendations published by the National Standards Authority of Ireland, the Structural Design Code, ISEN 1996, also known as Eurocode 6, and technical guidance documents published by the Department of Housing. It should be noted that all the standards that are referenced here can be purchased on standards.ie, and a list of which standards are deemed to be harmonised standards can be found on the European Commission NANDO website, and there's links earlier on in my slides if anyone wishes to use them to navigate through. There's 444 different product standards harmonised, so you can see it's quite a diverse and quite a broad sphere. So considering a lot of people here in the room will be from the regulatory side, this slide will be quite pertinent to help you understand the summary of obligations, I suppose, where different hats can be worn. So we have the standard that applies to the products, which will then tell us what the third party oversight requirements of it are, and if this final box, if they've gone down the voluntary route, which to be honest it generally doesn't apply. So the manufacturer has requirements for making statements on what their product does when they're placing out on the market. They do this via declarations of performance and documentation called CE marking. One of the key things that has to be included in this is the intended use. If a manufacturer is making a concrete block and he doesn't intend for it to be used in outdoor areas, they have to give any limitations of any use that they consider. That then can be considered by designers and specifiers. So this is where market surveillance, the sphere of market surveillance is the products that are made available on the market. I suppose once it makes its way to a construction site or makes its way and is incorporated into a building, the product isn't available on the market, and it would fall into the responsibility of building control. So there we have our requirements under Part D, workmanship. Are the materials fit for use? Have they been installed properly? Do they comply with all the requirements of the building regs, and do they comply with all of the requirements contained within? So just to provide a look at what one of these declarations of performance looks like, here's one that was a sample one that was drawn up again for concrete blocks. So lots of information from dimensions to configuration to reaction to fire to thermal properties and density. So this while it might be hard to see on the graphic here, where Ireland has a national requirement for this, we have included it in red. So a manufacturer has to tell you what their product does for these individual characteristics. The ones that are yellow, Ireland has no particular rules on it. The manufacturer can opt not to declare anything by putting in an acronym NPD, no performance declared, and that's their right. But the red ones, however, we do have national provisions, and for products made available on the market, the manufacturer does have to declare what their product does. Here again, similarly, is the sample CE mark. It should be noted it's a separate declaration to the declaration of performance. It can be contained within the same PDF, but they are legally different documents. We also, in that guidance document, we have the frequently asked questions that have come to our attention. So, due to Brexit, we often get questions related to what is the status of buying or importing products from across the border from Northern Ireland. Where self-builder, if I'm a self-builder, how does this apply to me? Where can I find links to these national provisions? How can I carry out my own checks to see if a manufacturer is certified or not? And where I suspect something is non-compliant, what are my options for reporting it into the regulatory system? So as we'll hear more about later today, so market surveillance. So market surveillance is essentially the police force of the construction product regulations. It's a requirement under the CPR. The member state is responsible for regulating its own market surveillance activities. So from 2013 to 2020, as Eamon and Mairead will kind of dive into a bit later on, it had been the 31 local authorities, and as of late 2020, the National Building Control Office assumed a national role in that regard. So the purpose of it is to keep non-compliant products off the market and to marginalise producers and products that don't comply with the national rules. How it does it? There's a system of legislation. So in 2013, the local authorities were empowered with this function. And then in 2020, SI 628 empowered National Building Control and Market Surveillance as a competent authority for carrying out market surveillance. It should be noted that, as Eamon has said, the MBC and MSO is a complementary system. It doesn't displace the requirements of the 31 local authorities. They are bringing a coordinated approach to the system of market surveillance across the country. And I suppose the intent is that the building control authorities in the specific local authorities will liaise directly with the MBC and MSO to bring issues that may have national, that may affect the nation in terms of market surveillance to their attention. So in addition, there is a new regulation, 2019-1020. That's a European piece of legislation. Irish implementing legislation is currently being finalised to give effect. So what it aims to do is provide, I suppose, clarity on additional powers to market surveillance regulations, in an effort to strengthen market surveillance. It lays down and clarifies rules for procedures for cooperation between supervisory authorities and groups of manufacturers, strengthens the network behind the scenes of the different market surveillance authorities, and also provides additional guidance on online sales, which would have, I suppose, become more the norm since 2013. So Ireland does have a national market surveillance strategy, as Eamon referred to, and I'm sure our colleagues in the NBC and MSO will dial more into later on. And one of the kind of significant pieces of work that the NBC and MSO have helped deliver since their appointment has been this report on the market surveillance of construction products produced from Donegal quarries in 2021 and 2022. So this was a request on foot of the Minister for Housing in response to some of the issues that have arose in the County Donegal. So NBC and MSO, in support in conjunction with Donegal County Council and the Geological Survey of Ireland, visited all of the aggregate producers making aggregates for concrete, and also the concrete block producers. There were some, we'll leave it to NBC and MSO to I suppose, detail the findings of their report. So quickly then, nothing stays still. There are changes coming in the future to the construction product regulations. To that effect, the European institutions, the Commission, Parliament and Council have begun a few parallel processes that are hoping to lead to some improvements within the construction product regulation system. So right now there's a review of the European legislation taking place, and there's also a review on the standard side of improving and updating the suite of standards. So one of the intents behind the review of the construction product regulations is to make it easier to deliver and improve on our harmonized standards, which for a number of legal reasons have kind of hit a roadblock. The intent is to provide better rules for digitalization of construction product info. The idea of putting in reams and reams of paper with every package, it's slightly outdated. So having QR codes and having digital access to information would be an improvement as we go forward. And also, quite importantly, there will be new requirements for compulsory declarations of environmental characteristics. So this will assist us in our environmental aims as we go forward as the EU and as our individual member states. So we can see here that there's a number of European initiatives to try and kind of help us achieve our net zero targets. One of the key things that will be coming in the line is in 2027, all new public buildings will require a carbon life cycle assessment. That will then be pushed out to more and more buildings, and by 2030, all new buildings will require this assessment. So if we can kind of imagine a BER type rating for how much embodied carbon has gone into the materials that is into the building, whereas the BER assessment will tell you how much energy it will cost or it will take to run the building on average throughout the year. This embodied carbon assessment will look at how much carbon has gone into the fabric to create the building. And from there, we'll be able to make assessments over what is the more eco-friendly and less carbon intensive building. In addition, there's a system undertaken to correct and complete the kind of the system of 444 harmonized technical specs, update some of them, get new products included in the system. It's currently hit a roadblock for a number of legal reasons that I won't bore you with today. The member states have fed into which products they consider are priority products. So, and these are in tow already. So precast concrete, structural metallic products, reinforcing steel, doors, windows, they've already begun their work. And in addition, a horizontal subgroup on environmental sustainability has been established. So this is to look again at how do we count carbon in products. It's not a product specific assessment. It obviously applies across all of the construction products. We want a common basis for counting these things. So thanks very much for that. I suppose in summary, what I'd like to say is that this is Ireland's implementation of a European system. The rules apply across the EU. They are quite complex. Let's not lie about it. But I suppose we're very thankful for days like today so that we can help get the message out and maybe detangle and demystify some of these issues. So thanks very much.